Welcome back, everyone, to A2Z, Arizona Sports All Day. My name is Hayden, Cilley, one of your hosts. Alongside me is the one, the only, Jonah Krell, another Valley boy. Hey, it has been too long since we've been in this studio. It feels like a century. But hey, you know what? It's been too damn long. But hey, we are here. We're thankful to be here, and we have someone very special with us. So, Jonah, how does it feel to be back?
Hayden, it's been over a month since we've been in the studio. It's been crazy, but better late than never. We've had some we've gotten over the cold. We've had some finals. We've had some conflicts, but we're back, and we have a great way to end the semester with an all-time guest. So, you want to intro it in?
Absolutely. I would love to. Thanks for giving me the honor. So, with us today, we have the head coach of the Phoenix Mercury, Vanessa Nygaard.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes, there's the energy we need.
Good morning, internet and world.
How are you doing, Coach?
I'm fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Phoenix, but also we had that wonderful news yesterday of BG's release, and I try to be positive every day, but that was a special day, so I'm feeling great, and I'm getting to hang out with you too. So
Aww.
There you go.
You are too sweet. Yeah, when you sent me that text yesterday morning, I could just feel the joy and just the pure elation from that. Like, she's home. Like, I don't know. There's so much peace in it. Would you say?
Yeah. I think there were so many people working so hard to get BG home and so concerned about her. And the women's basketball community, especially the players of WNBA, are so vocal and so strong in their support of different causes. And it's just they're rallying behind a BG and have her come home, and just that sense of relief. I know I started crying. I know I got a million texts from people, and they were like, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't even know her. And it was just everybody. And so it was just a wonderful outpouring of support.
That's awesome. Jonah, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, just continuing on with the whole Brittany Griner thing. Did it feel just like a sense of load lift off your shoulders when you hear that news?
Well, it's just been a constant concern. You know, when my kids go to bed at night, we have been saying a prayer for BG to get her home, and something that our players were thinking about constantly, and just the time of her return, saying, "Oh, she'll be back by June. She'll be back by mid-season. She'll be back by the All-Star game.
Right.
Oh, she'll be back." And then she'll be back before midterm elections, and then now she'll be back by Christmas. And so that goal time kept changing, and so just to wake up and have it be happening was just a wonderful surprise.
Yeah. And I got to ask you about just this past season for you, because, you mentioned just how the announcements kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Did it feel like the whole BG situation was like a cloud, hanging over you guys, and it was just hard to focus?
Sure. I think it was a tremendous stress on our players. They care for their teammate. They're concerned for her. They want to do everything they can to help bring her home. But also they miss her. And everywhere we went, all of the media requests were, let's talk about, we were the story in that town.
Right.
And that's great because we want to amplify the message and get the attention. We know women's sports gets 4 to 5% of the media coverage. So the fact that media wanted to cover it, we wanted to be a part of that. But that was hard on our team. I tried to do my best to take on some of that so the players didn't have to. But it was a constant stress, as well as going into those cities and places where they had been with their friend. You walk into this locker room, oh, that's the locker BG sat in. Or you go to this hotel and like, oh, there's a restaurant me and BG went to last year. And so that was like just a constant stress on them throughout the whole season. And meanwhile, just completely put aside the fact that the previous season, BG was probably the most dominant player, should have been the MVP in the league, and had, 20 points, 20 rebounds. So just any one of our games, add 20 points and add 20 rebounds, and then maybe the results of the season will be different.
Yeah. It's just, it's crazy to think about,
Oh, yeah.
And, for you specifically, this was your first season as head coach. Like, what does that do for you, knowing you have to take care of the current team, and also you have to manage something that you can't control, and you have to be that sort of spokesperson in this your first year? I mean, I imagine it was a lot for you.
Yeah, it was a couple things. You always tell your players, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, as young people, you probably get told that all the time. Oh, that's where growth happens. As adults, we don't always get in those situations. So the whole situation was a great growth opportunity for me. I think I learned a tremendous amount about so many things this past season. But on top of that, you know, you're dealing with a situation that no one's dealt with. So there's a lot of times when I'm a coach, I can call different mentors I have. I could go talk to Monty Williams if I had a coach ask him a question about a technical thing. I can call my college coach, Tara Vanderveer, and ask her something. These are things I do during the season. I can call different leaders in different areas that can help you when you're a head coach. There was no one to call about your player being in a Russian prison, wrongfully detained, or how that affects the team, or how you manage it. I couldn't come up with an idea. I was like, is there a football coach? Is there a basketball coach? Like, there was no one. And so we were pretty much, and it wasn't just me, our entire staff, our leadership, business side, basketball side, everybody was kind of flying in a blind way with this. But I am really proud of how our players handled the stress of the season, and also just our entire team.
That's awesome. I do have to ask because, like you said, Vanessa, there was, you know, like, let's say D, Sky, Breezy, Sophie, like, they've all played with BG, and like they have that relationship with her. And for you coming in as, you know, in your first season with the Mercury, so did you ever get the chance to actually meet BG, like, one-on-one? Yeah,
so she was in Russia when I was hired.
Okay.
And so throughout the process of the end of the interview, and then as I was hired, we had Skype conversations, and then we exchanged text message and everything. But, you know, I had met her before as coach in the world of basketball, but we hadn't had her in market for that time. Okay. So it was just so strange, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
look forward to having her home soon.
Yeah. I mean, like we obviously, we have to be concerned for her and make sure that she's doing okay. But that must just take a load off, and you got, a 20-10 score, hopefully, coming back for you. And just like, how much are you looking forward to just coaching her soon?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, such a dominant force. Like any coach looks forward to coaching that type of player. I mean, we're fortunate in Phoenix to have many players like that. And I've been looking forward to, when I was hired, definitely had an idea that BG was on the team. I was actually going through some notes on my phone the other day, or just yesterday, and the day before yesterday, and I came by the note that said, things to run when BG gets back.
Wow.
Which I must have made super early in the season.
That's crazy.
And so I had all these plays, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are good. I'm like, what? And the amount of times that for us in our season, so many things happened, with BG being removed from that, the Tina Charles situation with the divorce from her, the multiple injuries we had at the end of the season, that our need to pivot constantly what we did offensively. I thought it was so amazing how much our players bought into it and were able to continually say, okay, what do we need to do now to be successful?
That's awesome. I wanted to follow up on that question that I asked you about meeting BG.
Yeah.
Just sort of what was it like? I don't want to say from an outside perspective, but like the players have known her, and you've come in. Obviously, like you've talked to her, but like they know her on a personal level.
Sure.
So how were you able? I don't want to use the word relate to them, but how were you able to still feel sort of like empathetic, like to what they were feeling?
Yeah, I think it was just conversations with them, just checking in with them, how they're feeling, and then just learning more as the season progressed, how important BG was not just as a dominant on the court force, but her spirit and her teamwork and her ability to be a great teammate and the things that she did in the locker room, hearing from them, this is how BG was in this situation, or she would always make it so fun and she would get the team together, or she could really relate to everybody, and just the little stories. And because I think talking about her was important, not pretending like she's not there. Early in the season, I had our equipment manager. I said, hey, could you give me a pair of BG's old shoes? And I just took them and I just put them up in my office. And my office overlooks the court, and there's a window there. And I just wanted to have sort of that connection to her in that space, and allowing the players to not just be using their voice to advocate for her, but also to like have that sense of love. Those memories you have with your great teammates, you want to continue to remember those. So, it was just such an emotional year.
Yeah.
I know when the season was over, I was like, that was so much. And even the way it ended, with the injury to Shea Petty, that was just like when she got injured, I know everyone was like, wow.
Like, why us, right?
Like, what is going on? So, in some ways, like with this return, it feels like a turning of the page, right? Like a closing of the chapter and a real positive move forward.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition into the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And just with everything that you guys went through the past year, getting to the playoffs still through all of that.
Yeah.
Was that a positive, successful first year in your mind?
Well, I think here in Phoenix, we have a tradition of excellence in championships. And so the goal is always to win the championship. So not winning the championship, we didn't reach our goal that way. But you have to make the playoffs to be competing for the championship. And so we were happy with the resilience of our players, the grit and toughness of our players to get us to that point and get into the playoffs. We kind of just ran out of gas and healthy bodies. We had brand new people coming into the team right as we started the playoffs. So, I think in terms of success, we had a lot of success on the business side. And I think we were second in attendance in the league, though we finished 8th, which is phenomenal, speaks to the great community of support we have here in Phoenix and the great job that our marketing and event team do to promote our team, but also put on a really first-class experience. Being somebody who goes around the league and plays in these different arenas, and of course I'm focused on the game, so I'm not paying attention to the show. But I stand by the fact that we have the best presentation of the game, and I think that's reflective in our record. We were not strong on the road, I will not lie. But at home, we had the same home record in the regular season as the Aces. So I think that is something to really build on and to be excited about, and hopefully something that will attract some great free agents.
Yeah, you talk about players buying in to the system, and I know throughout the course of the season, you had to change the system quite a bit with players leaving, injuries, that sort of thing. How are you able to get everyone to buy in, even though schemes and offensive systems and just the structure might have changed a bit?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about that being a new coach coming into a situation where someone had been the coach for a long time. That's something that I hadn't really maybe thought about enough, and so I will I've cataloged that. But it was a lot of change for them because the core group had been doing things a certain way for a long time. So there was going to be an adjustment period. And for us also, for our training camp, I think we didn't have our full team until after the first game that was in town. So we had players in training camp. The majority of training camp were players that weren't on our roster. And definitely at the end of the season, I guess Sophie was there on the first day, but was injured and didn't participate in training camp because she was coming off an injury. Breezy missed all of training camp. Diamond missed all of training camp. Shay missed a huge portion of it. Tina left the team, so I guess doesn't count to being at training camp. So this year, the rules change. In the WNBA, we have the prioritization rule that came in the last collective bargaining agreement coming into shape, which is going to be a requirement that players are in attendance on the first day of training camp. And if they are not, there's a fine for the additional days as they add up that they miss. Next season, the rule will change. This is a transitional year. The next season, if they're not at training camp, they cannot play in the WNBA. This is going to affect some international players and also those players that get paid hefty sums overseas. They're going to have to make a choice. But as a W coach, it's very positive in a lot of ways for us because we'll have a lot more time. And as a brand new head coach in my training camp, not to have the majority of the players where we transition a lot of things, it was a challenge. But like I've said a lot, I learned so much. I appreciate, the experiences of life that come my way are things that help me grow. So,
Mrs. Positivity.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why not?
I love it. And that's sort of what the mindset you need with everything you guys went through. I noticed we were joking around before, and we were looking at some of your jokes.
Oh yeah, I got it. You need a new one. I got a new one.
Give us one. Yeah.
Okay. Why did Adele cross the road?
I don't know.
Hayden
Why?
knows it.
Why?
She wanted to say hello from the other side.
Oh.
He knew it, though. He
That's
knew it.
too good.
He'd heard it. My 12-year-old told me that.
That's
one.
great. That is great. Are your kids, big into TikTok at all? Or have they gotten you into it?
They have not. So I've really resisted. Even my 12-year-old, she has a phone, but she has no social media.
Ooh, good.
I mean,
good.
the long-term
That's smart.
implications. I've worked with younger kids. I've worked at schools before, and I've just seen how detrimental it can be when they're really young, especially girls. So trying to protect her. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
They'll probably get to that age though. Well,
Very soon.
yeah.
Very soon. Unfortunately.
Oh man, I gotta ask. Just growing up here in the Valley, always watching Diana Taurasi. It's just insane to watch her do what she does. And now at the age that she does it, obviously you've been around the league for a while, but just seeing her up close.
Yeah.
What is she like as a worker in practice and in game modes? How she can just shift into that crazy Mamba mode,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Can you tell us about what you see from her?
Yeah, I mean, Dee's the ultimate competitor. She is playing to win and playing, I think at this point, she has nothing left to prove to anyone, right? She is the greatest player. There's a banner hanging in the arena for the scoring record. I think it's 2,000 points ago. So, there's nothing left for her to prove. She's playing just because of the pure love she has for the game and her competitive spirit. And it's just amazing to see somebody so dedicated to their craft. For anyone to see this example of how you put the work in, how you should approach how to be excellent, she's really mastered that at a level that's amazing. I mean, wait when you're 40, guys. Then you're going to be like, wow. You're going to turn 40, you're going to be like, wow, Diana Taurasi is still playing when she's 40? I can't even walk right now. And just the amount of wear and tear. And for me as a coach, she was really supportive of me in my first year. Also I found her extremely coachable and professional in how she carried herself, and was just a pleasure to coach, and just so much potential. And also, I think she doesn't get enough credit for the evolution of her game, because in the last 15 years, the women's game has changed a lot, just as much as the men's game has changed. And as basketball progressed, Dee's game has changed too. Her positions she's played on the court, what she's done, she's still incredibly one of the best shooters in the world ever. But on top of that, I think she's transitioned her understanding of the game, and that evolution is quite impressive.
Yeah. Evolution. Ooh, I like that word a lot, because I think one of the biggest players that evolved the most, honestly, two of them would be Breezy and Sophie.
Yeah.
I know I've talked to you a lot about Sophie's development and what you've seen. But just what was it like to sort of coach her? Because here's the thing, Phoenix is a very feisty team. They have a lot of
technicals. Yeah, we lead the league.
There's a lot of personality. So I do want to ask, how were you able to sort of balance those personalities? With Dee, with Sky, with Tina when she was there. These are a lot of strong personalities. Just how are you able to get everything to mesh?
Yeah, I think a pro coach's job is to manage personalities and manage people. I thought Sophie and Breezy did make great progress this year. Sophie, I think Dee said one time in post game, you don't want to get in a fight in an alley with Sophie, don't mess with her. I found her to be really committed to winning, understanding those team elements, and willing to do whatever. Because there were so many times this season with Breezy and Sophie that I was like, hey, I need you to do this. Hey, I need you to do this. And they always stepped up, and they were never resistant. They might have said why, but they deserved the answers of why. But they transitioned and played so many different roles for us throughout the season. And Sophie was just right where she needed to be in her development. You see on the NBA side, it takes a couple years to see that guy really blossom, and Sophie's right there, right? So all of a sudden in this year, I think she was in the top 10 and made threes in the league, one of the top percentages, and it's just the tip of the iceberg for her. She evolved into playing, helping us to evolve into more of a 5-out spread with a 4-guard look. And she was tough enough to help us do that because there's so many dominant fours in the league. Really, Sophie and Breezy, their work and their dedication this season cannot be underestimated.
That's awesome. Well, just real quick, will you emphasize more of like that 5-out offense? You know, let's just give a hypothetical. Like if BG takes a little while to get back, will you still sort of implement that style?
I think you can still be 5-out with a dominant post player. You know, the Suns have Hayden. He's a very dominant post, and they're pretty much 5-out.
Okay.
So I think it's more about removing the other post player, that traditional, you have two bigs, one on the block or one in the high post, and now we're using the space of the whole court. So I think we'll continue to evolve that, as well as using the entire court instead of crowding into the 3-point area or being closer to it. And I think that will be a huge benefit to BG if she's playing. If we have a bunch of space and shooters around here, then it's a lot harder to double her.
Yeah.
And guarding her one-on-one is impossible, especially with Liz Cambage and Sylvia Fowles no longer playing.
That's right.
So who are the people in the W that can now say they can actually guard Brittany Griner? Maybe Jonquil Jones, maybe Tierra McCowan.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, there really isn't. There's not much else. I mean, she is literally, it's mesmerizing to see who she is because there's no one else like her who can match up with her. It's literally like female version of Shaq. There, right? Yeah. It's crazy.
Or like, I'm sure you guys watch the Showtime with the Lakers, and then where Kareem comes in and is like, I'm going to have 20 and 20 and 5 assists. I feel like that's how BG is. Yeah. She could just say, this is exactly what I'm going to do out there because nobody can stop me.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, now that you're looking forward to next season, we mentioned the two players, Sophie and Breezy, to step up. What are you looking to take from, your first year and learn from that and now apply it in this next year to have success? Yeah,
so I think just understanding where the game is going a little bit. I want to try to push that from our side. I think last season we had the most made threes in a season by a Mercury team in history. So that's something I think I want to double down on, getting a lot of shooters onto the court, and been very fortunate that the Suns and Monty Williams have given me full access and my staff full access to watch what they do and to see how the NBA has progressed the game, and being so close to that, studying that, and trying to bring in more space into what we do, more not necessarily pick and roll game, but more two-player games and more two-player interactions, and creating more opportunities to really space and attack with a little bit more speed.
Yeah, I mean that's how the game has evolved.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And sometimes the women's game is 20 years behind. So like if I can travel through time into the future and bring back some things, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And something you mentioned that at least for my knowledge doesn't really get talked about enough is the relationship between the WNBA team and the NBA team. Because I to be honest, like I'm ignorant about that relationship, and what is your relationship with the Suns and Monty, and how do you guys, I guess, work together? Is that a thing among cities?
So this is the first place I've been where it's a thing.
Wow.
So even as a player, I played New York Liberty, and I played in Portland, and I played Sparks, and I played in Miami. They were all NBA-affiliated teams, and I can't ever even remember seeing one of the players. Torrey Craig, he comes to most of our games and is super supportive. But in my interview process to be the coach, James Jones was one of the people I interviewed with.
Wow.
And James has been a constant support system and an advocate for us. And I think it comes from his leadership, and now his new title as president of basketball, that they see the Mercury and the Suns as part of their basketball organization. And so we're not a separate team over here, and we're part of the team. And that is part of James's vision. But he's someone who's constantly a resource for me. We're always having conversations as we hire new people. He's part of that process. He's always advising me. And, Monty's been great too. There were times during the season where I had questions for Monty, and his staff would answer them for me. He's allowed us full access to his practices, his playbook, everything that they do, and we're in the same space, so we share that space. And they're in season, so they have priority on everything.
Right.
But just being there, being around the coaches. Just the other day, I was just talking to one of the assistants about some different I've been watching a lot of the Utah Jazz, so I was asking him some questions about that. Or it's just really a tight-knit relationship. It's something that for me as a coach, I've never had access to, and it's actually a breath of fresh air. So it's hopeful that other teams are doing this. I think Minnesota, they have a practice facility and they share it, and they have a great tradition there and a longtime coach for their W team. So I think they have a little bit of that integration, but I think we are leading the way with having a single basketball organization.
Just curious, how was your relationship with Mercury president Vince Kozar or GM Jim Pittman?
Yeah.
Like, how are they sort of able to integrate you, not just within the Mercury, but within the organization as a whole?
Yeah, I think Vince and Jim have been great. They're so seasoned within the organization and in the W. They're pros at what they do. Jim's been around for a long time on both the Suns and with the Mercury, and he's just great with the numbers and helping us manage our team. And he's just a great person. And then Vince is just Mr. WNBA. He's so passionate about it and so smart. And the product of us being number 2 in attendance is Vince Kozar. And he'll never take that credit, but he is a great a leader, understanding the business model of the WNBA, and somebody that that we are lucky to have working with the Mercury.
Now, I got to ask, because we're sort of on this topic. I hate to get serious, but obviously this was a big thing that happened with Robert Sarver.
Yeah.
And he's selling the team, and obviously that includes the Mercury
Right.
as well. And just what he did in terms of women as well,
Yeah.
and it's everything that involved that story. You're getting a new owner as well. How excited are you for that new sort of transition? And I guess what were your thoughts about that whole entire ordeal with Mr. Sarver?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was hired, it was rumblings, right? It was like kind of coming out. They even had the ESPN article, and so I didn't quite know the scope. I will admit I was absolutely disturbed when I read the full report. Yeah. I was absolutely disturbed, and it didn't align with my values as a person, and it didn't align with anything I had experienced for working with the Suns Legacy Partners. So the people that I've interacted with, I hadn't felt any of those things, including Robert Sarver and just his support of our organization and conversations I had with him. So it was upsetting, but I think, obviously we're moving in a new direction.
Yeah.
And the people that I work with, the people I'm close to, have just been phenomenal. And, a change in leadership, a change in ownership is something that is like whatever, but, the players and coaches were assets of the team. So hopefully it's a positive. There's nothing but positive to owning a WNBA team and advocating for such a great group of women. And so I know that the new owner will be excited to have us as representatives of the W. And I mean, it's an uncertain time, but also exciting. And as the value of the teams together go up, I don't know, the number's like, what, $4 billion now?
Something like
Who
that.
has $4 billion? Most countries don't. So whoever buys this team, that increases the value of a WNBA franchise, which is, at the end of the game, really great. And as the league expands, that'll hopefully push that number up as well.
That's awesome. I do want to ask you a little bit about just your background, about because I know you coach high school basketball for, I want to say, from 2012 up until 2021. Is that correct? Are you still coaching?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Okay.
No, just sometimes some sixth graders or whatever that my kids need, but no. Yeah, yeah. I did. It was awesome.
Okay.
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, you won two state titles and everything. Just curious, how do you go from coaching high school and being at that level to then getting an assistant job with the Aces and then landing the head coaching job with the Mercury? What was that transition like? Was it were Were there more things you had to learn? Was it more technical? Like, just what was the process like?
Yeah, I think that there's always more things to learn. I had some previous experience coaching the W2. I coached in San Antonio before. I actually went to be a high school coach because I was uncertain. I was uncertain exactly where I was going to coach in the W as an assistant, and then I decided I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to be around my children when they were little and small. And so I didn't think being a WA coach during that time was something that would be good for my family. And so I took on, just not intending to ever be a high school coach ever. I always wanted to be a W or pro or a college coach. I never intended it. And it just kind of like, I ran into somebody I knew, like, hey, do you want to help? And I was like, sure. And then all of a sudden, all these things were happening. And I had this basketball knowledge and I was just using it. And I was like, okay, this will be good reps and good experience for me, and eventually go back to this. And, 10 years later with your kids, you're like, oh, I forgot about what my dream was. I remembered only about my kids. And I think sitting home during the pandemic, that was when I had the realization. I was watching the bubble season and I said, you know what? Look at these amazing women. Look at this amazing league. It was my dream to be a part of that. And also, I want to support it. And the best way I can support it is doing what I do, which is coach. And so how do I get back in? And so I'm not like, this is exactly how it happened. I picked up my phone. I started calling coaches I knew and agents I knew. And then I got the interview in Vegas and, here I am. And so I definitely couldn't do both those things. I loved working with the athletes. And I do think it will play out to be an asset for me in many ways because, in 10 years, the players I coached at the beginning, they're seasoned vets in the WNBA. Jordan Canada was on the first team I coached. And Jordan Canada is now 5 years into her WNBA career. So not only is it like, okay, I've coached a player of that caliber, it's not that. It's about their generation. It's about understanding how younger people operate and what they need. And I have more knowledge of that than any coach in the WNBA because I was just working with these younger kids and they're about to get drafted. Charisma Osborne, she's at UCLA. Yeah. I coached her for 4 years. Wow. So she's coming into the league. I understand how kind of these kids operate and also how their families operate. There's a lot of parents involved at that level. This level is more like agents. But I think that that's an asset, something that will prove to be beneficial to me. But I have a very unconventional journey to being back in the WNBA, but I absolutely do love it. And it's a league I believe in. I'm here because I believe in the WNBA.
That's amazing. Like the whole journey and everything like that. So, I was reading, 2003, when you were with the Sparks, you took an assistant coaching job with Long Beach State.
Yeah.
So did you realize at that time that this was something you wanted to do, or did you had that dream and then, like you said, you sort of lost it? Like, what was that process, that goal in your mind back then?
Well, I always, as a player, I always loved basketball more than it loved me. I was just very much a journeywoman, maybe a mercenary, you might call it, just going around to different teams and shooting threes and fouling people. Now, if I was an NBA player, I'd be a millionaire right now, but that's just not the case. But I had been on a lot of different teams. And when I played in Miami, I played for the Miami Soul, which team no longer exists. But the head coach was Ron Rothstein. He was a former NBA guy. So he was the first coach of the Heat. He's a broadcaster there, I believe, for the team now, and he'd also coached the Pistons. And I remember being on that team. I got traded there, and one day I said, you know what, he came up to me and said, so I heard that you're thinking you might want to be a coach. And I don't know where he'd heard that, but I'm not sure where he got it. But I was like, yeah, I was thinking that maybe when I'm done playing, I want to do it. And he said, you should be a coach. You'd be a good coach. And then I just always was like, oh my gosh, this pro coach thinks I should be a coach. That's all I needed. And I was like, you know what? I can wear shorts to work every day.
There you go.
I get to travel around. Like, I get to go to people pay me to go to basketball games. So all these amazing things. And so as I started to get, 2 or 3 years later, and like my body's just failing me, like so many knee surgeries. And so I was not meant to keep playing basketball. I just tried to transition right into coaching from there. And it was challenging to coach and play at the same time. But I knew I couldn't be a college coach and also be a player or be a parent, because college is like the craziest.
Really? How so?
Just I think just the hours involved, the year-round recruiting, the demand that the players have because like you're almost like their parents in that space, and just incredible time commitment that. For me, like wanting to have time with my kids, that's what I love about the balance of this job is how much time that I get with my own family. And like even this year, I got to take my son on a road trip, which was super awesome.
Yeah.
Not to mention
awesome.
transfer portal and NIL.
I mean,
aren't you glad you don't have to deal with that?
Yeah, so I
what are your thoughts?
So I coached that kid that just signed with USC. So she played for 2 years. I only coached her for a year because then I went to it was pandemic and I went to Vegas. I coached her for 1 year, and then she transferred to Sierra Canyon where LeBron's kids go.
Of course.
And then signed with LeBron's agent, and now she had it's Juju Watkins. She had soon to be a WNBA player.
Crazy.
Once the rules allow. She had South Carolina and Stanford, and there's some cash on the table. South Carolina. The state government of South Carolina is like all in to support their sports teams. So the rules are different in every state. So different states are allowed to do different things, the state universities. In South Carolina, they're giving stock options in companies, which is like generational wealth.
You got to be kidding me.
Right. So
That's insane.
As well as you get to play for Don Staley and play for national championship, and I'm biased towards Stanford. You go there.
Of course.
Like for me, like I went there to play basketball, but like every day for the rest of your life, people think you're smart. I was literally there to play basketball. I just sat in the locker room, read Sports Illustrated, and look where I am. Turns out I was training for the right thing. But so she had South Carolina and Stanford, and she chose USC. They're giving her reportedly $500,000 a year.
What?
A women's basketball player. So let's talk about what she's going to make is if you're a WNBA player, you get drafted, you're locked into your rookie contract, and then you sign your max deal. And max deal goes up every year, but what's it? It's 260 something this coming year.
I think it's like 296.
296 as Supermax.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So she would be making less as a WNBA player than a player at USC. Now USC is terrible. They're not even in the top. They're not terrible. They're great. They're good, strong program with lots of tradition.
Real quick,
Pac-12.
Is that Stanford bias coming
No,
out?
no. I will say proudly that I never lost to USC.
Okay.
But they have some tradition with some great players with Lisa Leslie, Ebony Hoffman. There's some great players, but they haven't had great success. And they wrangled the number one recruit by far. And I'll say this about Juju. I mean, she's a Taurasi level talent. And also when we talk about moving into time traveling into the future, what the game's going to look like. Her game more models what an NBA player looks like than a WNBA player. So she's going to be a great player. But we're talking about a college player getting $2 million before they step onto a WNBA court.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So college basketball is not going to, college sports is not going to last. I'm sure you guys are always talking about this because it can't last in this model.
Yeah, it's such a tough thing to debate on, but she's right. I think it's just unsustainable at this point. I was talking to one of the pitching coaches for ASU, Sam Peraza, ASU baseball, and he was just like, it's too much of a free agency frenzy right now, and the whole model is unsustainable, and you have to build from the ground up.
Yeah, it's the whole NIL thing. I think once NIL was put into action, I think by Congress, I was like, there goes the you could literally get a university, just like you said, Vanessa. Like USC paid Juju how much was
reportedly?
Reportedly
$500,000 a year.
$500,000
but it's only through some spot. They didn't pay her as part of the deal. But sure.
Still, that's a substantial amount of money. And it's like if you're someone that has grown up without a lot of money, of course you're gonna take it.
Well, you take care of your whole family. Yeah. And I get it. I absolutely get it. And there's gonna be have-nots in this. I'm obviously a Stanford football fan. I mean, Stanford's best running back transferred to USC, got paid not maybe Juju money, but a significant amount of money, and doesn't even play. But then Stanford doesn't have a running back. Yeah. So now this is the game we're playing. There's going to be a super conference, right? And then there's going to be everybody else. I don't know. And I'm not a super fan of how the NCAA was doing everything too, because they were just collecting all that money and then not giving it equally to the women. So that's also not, I don't think, a great model, but there's going to be something new for sure.
Yeah. Should we transition a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the media, since we're
the media.
Yeah, I know.
You guys are nice.
The dreaded media, right? Because we're in this space.
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Oh, yes, of course.
We're actually paying you to be here.
I got to ask this question. It's the biggest question that I came in to this interview with. What is the stupidest question Hayden has ever asked you?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, you have to
Where
think
do
about
I begin?
You have to think about
Where
it.
do I begin? Hayden always asks appropriate and professional questions. I found my experience, like, you guys are all really too nice. Like, I watch those NBA press conferences, and those coaches get grilled. And we're appreciative of the support. But, like, there was a couple times I was going in, I was like, oh, somebody's going to get me on this. But nobody really... No,
You've never gotten your buttons pushed?
I'm not putting a challenge out there. I'm not doing that. But I appreciate, like, that level of respect. I do feel like a lot of times people who are covering women's sports are doing it in the same vein as many of us, which is wanting to support it. And so there's a spirit of that doesn't exist on the NBA side,
That's
where
true.
it's like, look, you pay money. The whole point of professional sports is I pay money, I get to say whatever I want. I get to comment. I get to criticize the players. I go to the game. I get to yell things from the stands. I get to tweet things, and so we get that part of professional sports. But I appreciate the unnastiness of the people who cover women's sports.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I never thought about the media wanting to sort of have that support of the WNBA. And what do you think they hold back a little bit? Sometimes?
I don't know if they hold back. And I will say that I did kind of realize this year sometimes, like, what you hear is not the act. Like, when I read something now, I'm like, that's not the truth. Like, I read that story and I'm like, I think sitting here, you're very much aware of, like, oh no. Like, when I read that, I know it's the opposite. But I think that they're fair and balanced, and but also want to give positive light towards the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't said anything stupid. Well, I mean, we have had our fair share of
He's
funny,
had some
funny
stupid.
interactions.
He's had some stupid takes on this show.
Man.
I've had to roast him a couple
come
times.
on. That was, when was that? 3 months ago?
No, we've had our share of some hot takes here on this show. We cover everything Arizona sports, including you guys. So, we've had our share of debates, but I'm a little surprised he hasn't gotten on the other side of
I'm surprised you haven't grilled me.
Yeah.
Not yet. Keep waiting.
I will say, though, real quick, like, Jonah and I think this was about a year ago, and it was when when ASU had to play or when the Mercury had to play at ASU.
Oh,
that was our first episode. I think.
And
Yeah.
I was like,
what a terrible game for the Aces. What a great game for Breezy. What a great game for
oh
Breezy.
yeah. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, they would really kick off
Disney on Ice.
Disney on Ice for, like, a team that's gonna make the finals, and then literally, lo and behold, they cover the Mercury.
Yeah.
Very full circle moment, I must say. But thank you for being so gracious, though.
Of course.
During my coverage,
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing for the first
You
month or
totally
so.
played it off. You look just like just like the rest of them.
There you
pulled
go.
it off.
Hey, fake it till you make it. That's one of my
what
go-to sayings.
The truth is, though, that everybody's faking it.
Oh, yeah.
Even at the top. Like, when you're young, you're always like, oh, I don't have that experience. Oh, I don't know. You know what? Everyone else is just winging it too.
Yeah.
By the way, we're on the topic of media. I think DT has a good future.
Yeah. When she did the Final Four.
Yeah, with
Phenomenal.
Sue Bird. I mean, that was
phenomenal.
That was great.
Yeah.
She's got like I was saying, sort of that Kobe mind, where she can just break down the game like so in depth, and it's fascinating.
And she's funny and sharp-witted, so that helps. Right?
The solo cup thing.
The solo cup, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. Do you have a funny Diana moment, because you said she's low key funny a little bit, so or serious or any story about her.
I don't know if I have something funny. I just like little comments she makes that just make me laugh. So, I appreciate that because what I know is that she gets real joy out of the game. And so do I. I love basketball. Like, I just love it. I always have since I was a kid. And it's just great to be around other people that just love it, It's a dream to be working here and to be around the Suns. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like, just to see this and to learn all these things and be exposed to. I've never really studied the NBA because I've always watched a lot of college, watched a lot of W, and just to be around all these people that just love the game is awesome.
That's awesome. I do want to ask you, for someone that, because I think with a lot of WNBA reporters, some of which are new, they haven't been doing it for a long time. So just from your perspective, being a coach, being sort of, kind of what you referred to as sort of the front line when it comes to media asking you questions, what do you look for in a new reporter that's covering the team? What makes someone a good reporter in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that it's base knowledge of understanding the history of the game, right? And understanding the players. There's nothing worse than coming in and not knowing important stuff about the league or the team or the franchise, and coming in not having done what is just the work, right?
Yeah, preparation.
Yeah, you could be I'm sure you could be asked to cover some sport you've never heard of. And what do? You put in the work and you study it. It's just like me getting a new team to scout. I've got to do the work and evaluate. So I think it's just really that preparation, that showing that care that you've put into so that what you need to know. And then just that baseline respect. That's what we want all in life, right? Everybody to feel respected and give respect, and to treat the W players the way the NBA players are treated, and the NFL players are treated, and to give everybody that equal level of respect. And it's funny, within all groups of basketball people, I think the people that give the WNBA players the most respect in terms of players is NBA players, because they know how hard it is. And even college players don't, and younger players, but the NBA players are the ones that know, oh my gosh, how hard that is to be a pro. And so they get that respect. And so I would say as a member of the media, just giving that same respect, treating them the same way. And I do, ask the tough questions, because that's the real world. And I know we live in this world of, we want to try to protect people's mental health. But I do think that there's a fine line there of just making sure that the real stories come out. Sometimes I think with women's sports, it can get too fluffy.
Yeah.
I hate when I'm watching a college game, and they start talking about some off-court stuff with the player instead of the actual game. I get super annoyed.
Just because they're women,
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to hear about their shoe collection or their stuffed animal collection. I don't know who has a stuffed animal collection. I stuffed Hayden, maybe. But
hey, man. Hey, leave me out of this.
There's Beanie Babies. They're Beanie Babies. But you guys don't even know what Beanie Babies are, right? Because that's the 80s.
Oh,
See,
wow.
Oh my gosh, Google it. Google it.
I got
everyone.
it.
Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies.
Okay.
So it was really hot in the 80s. It was little stuffed animals. Anyway, yeah, I feel like they do a lot more fluff conversation and try to build them up off the court instead of just talking about the things on the court.
I've seen
You've seen a Beanie Baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are hot.
One.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this exact one.
You have a collection. I was correct. Yeah, so I think it's sometimes fluffy. I watch an NBA game, my favorite person to wait. Maybe it's because I'm a coach, but I love to listen to Jeff Van Gundy, and it's
great.
very technical.
Yeah.
And I learn as a coach, but I also enjoy the game. And that might just be me as a coach talking, but that's the level of professionalism that you get for men's sports. And a lot of times I feel like for women's sports, we don't get that. I want that technical expertise, because if you are an average fan and you never watched a W game and it came on TV and you're watching it and they're not talking about the game, or it's end of game situation and they're talking about the wrong thing, or they're not talking, you're just I think that the W is a great product, and if you love basketball, you'll love it regardless of your gender. But we have to treat it in a lot of ways the same. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of my feeling. I just get really. Sometimes I turn the sound off when I'm watching a college women's game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But there's more people, there's more women getting involved in the media space. Shanae Ogumake is one of the more prominent.
Go Stanford.
ESPN names, and there's women getting actual NBA play-by-play jobs. And,
Right.
and obviously, the Mercury have a great broadcaster in Sydney Brunson. I feel like, the media is in great hands, I think, of embracing the women into the game. And I think starting to take them more seriously. I feel like that there's a transition there. So.
Yeah, I think it's a society shift too, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden we realize, hey, we really should support women's sports like a couple years ago.
That would make sense.
Hey, hey, it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Maybe we should start enforcing it. Hey, like all these things that, are slow transition. But I am a history person. I was a history major. And I do recall that it took 41 years for the Senate to pass the women's right to vote. Debated for 41 years. So we'll be patient. We're very patient as women. So we'll be patient and wait for that attention and respect coming our way. And I know that the product is strong. I know that the game is great and the players are phenomenal. So it's just a matter of time.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's probably time to wrap up, right? And something that we like to do as our final segment of the show is called Final Words.
Ooh.
It's a A to Z staple.
Wow.
Where we give
so intense.
I know, it's sort of like our final 2 cents on whatever we talked about during the show or whatever is on our mind. Gives us a chance for a lovely rant or two. But would you want to kick off the final words with just maybe anything that's on your mind, whether it's looking forward to next season or BG coming home, anything that we talked about, just whatever you want to say.
Sure. I mean, well, first, thank you both for having me and publicizing women's sports. But just extremely grateful today for BG's return and so many people that made it happen. And through this process, I learned about, and our team learned about, the different civil servants that work with the State Department. There's this special envoy for the president on hostage affairs, and these group of civil servants that we met throughout the process that worked. I don't think they slept since they found out BG, and they don't even know her, to get her back. And these are guys that were like former Army Rangers and lifetime dedicated people to our country, and having her come back with the work of these people just makes me so proud to be an American. And I know there's like kind of some backlash and pushback against this stuff, but I think to disrespect kind of her return or question her return is to really question these patriots that work for our country and do so much and are just dedicated civil servants. And so I want to shine the light, this little bit of light you're giving me here, on the work of these members of the Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs, as well as BG's agent and their agency, Wasserman, who did so much work. All the shirts and all the stuff you see, along with the WNBA Players Association. These are the people that were on the ground daily. When people say write letters to BG, somebody was physically delivering that stuff and working that and taking those emails and turning them in. Like somebody was doing all that work. And so there was such a group of people. So I have incredible gratitude for our civil servants, the agents, the Players Association, as well as the team here with the Mercury who worked so hard to help amplify the message. And so just a shout out of love to BG.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It really is. So this is actually our last ever episode of
I'm
A
gonna
to
cry.
Z.
This is Z.
Yes.
A to Z.
A to Z.
A to
Sorry,
Z.
no, I'm saying this is Z. This is the last.
Oh.
I
I
know.
didn't even.
I
This
see
is
what you
Z.
did there.
I know.
Wow.
We're here at
This
Z.
is Z. But it's honestly, it's been unreal since we started last year and everything. Like, it's been so much fun just going in the studio with Jonah, like every single Friday, just chopping it up about, honestly, just anything regarding Arizona sports. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had our fair share of hot takes, debates. We've questioned
Guest appearances
yes,
too.
guest appearances. We've questioned other organizations as well, quite frequently. But it's been a lot of fun, and it is bittersweet. This feels more of like a see you later rather than a goodbye. and that sort of thing. But Jonah, would you like to address the good news though?
What's the good news?
What's
Wait,
the,
are we?
What's the good news, bro? We found out about it on Monday.
Oh yes,
Yes.
of course. Why am I forgetting what the good news is? Yeah. So I don't know if anyone has followed the Blaze social media, but we were nominated for an intercollegiate radio award.
What?
Yeah, for
Come on, everybody.
Best sports talk program.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, we're just two guys, who just talk about AZ sports. It's crazy, but yeah, we got nominated for best sports talk program. So
wow, congratulations! Step
thank
closer
you so
to the
much.
Hall of Fame, right here.
Yeah, exactly. If we get an
First
award,
step.
it'll go right here. But
Yes.
yeah, I just wanted to close out first, responding to what you were saying, that we can't forget Paul Whelan as well.
Absolutely.
And his name might get put in the shuffle a little bit, but obviously there's work to be done to bring him home, and I think the president and everyone in charge took the best option that was on the table, and I just hope that we can get these other people back home safely as well, in addition to, of course, BG. So that's on that topic. But on A to Z, this has been so much fun, Hayden, and it sucks that this will be our last episode ever, but just got a lot going on next semester, and it'll be crazy, but we got to enjoy what we did here, and it was a lot of fun. Just when we came up with the idea, it was just like we can talk for hours on end about AZ sports, and this just gave us the opportunity to do that. So shout out Blaze, shout out Mallory Schnell, Blaze Sports president right there. So Blaze Sports director, my bad. But yeah, this has been a great opportunity, and I think that'll do it for our last episode of A to Z, Arizona Sports All Day. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. For Hayden Cilley, for Coach Nygaard, I'm Jonah Krell saying so long. Have a great day, everybody.